A few months ago, I was watching a program on Fox News Sunday television show. They were discussing the Trump/Biden debate, and I didn't even notice that my wife was on the phone with someone. Victor, Susie has some issues with her husband. Do you mind if she stays over? My wife asked me when the show was over. I've known Susie for a long time. She was a bridesmaid at Naomi's and my wedding. I can't say I was thrilled with the request, but I allowed it. Naive as I was, I thought Susie would only stay one night. What happened to her? I asked Naomi when she was done talking on the phone. Her husband kicked her out of the house. What a bastard. Not only did he cheat on her, but it was Susie's fault. How can you find fault in everything? I shrugged my shoulders. According to what Naomi had just told me, Susie's husband was a scoundrel. But I couldn't rule out the possibility that Susie had presented it that way. It's easy for a woman to make a man look bad. Naomi and I spent time in our bedroom while Susie came to us. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment. 1 room for us and 1 room for the kids. Naomi and I have 2 kids, boys Peter and Kevin. So the question of where to place Susie, even for one night, was an important one. Well, she couldn't have the kitchen, could she? The boys could come in here at any time. Not even a change of clothes. Then let's do it this way. I'll sleep in the kitchen tonight, and you and Susie will sleep at our room, I suggested to Naomi. She didn't argue. In a situation like that, it was hard to think of anything else. Before long, Susie arrived. Her coming turned into a small evening party. Victor, you don't know how bold he's become. I suspected he was seeing someone before. But lately he has stopped even trying to hide his mistress from me. Susie began to tell me about her plight as a woman. Although she is considered my wife's best friend, and we have known each other for many years, I do not know her husband. Somehow, our paths have not crossed at joint events. We have not traveled anywhere together as a family. So I could only judge him by the words of our guest. The complaints about her husband continued well past midnight. Since the case took place in the kitchen, my bedroom for the night, I had to listen to all these stories. And my Naomi listened to her friend. During the night Susie spent at our house, I grew tired of her. Her endless complaints about her husband, and the fact that Naomi agreed with her. I felt like I was in some kind of man-hating club, and then I began to feel superfluous. Otherwise, Susie just listened to Taylor Swift songs all the time. I had them memorized, and they were in my head constantly. So when I was listening to the radio in the car and a Taylor Swift song came on, I immediately remembered that I was no longer comfortable at home. Victor, here's the thing. Remember last night when you and I talked about Naomi staying with us for just one night? That kind of introduction from my wife could only mean one thing. Now she's going to ask me if I'd mind if Susie stays a little longer. That was a good one. It's just that she really has nowhere else to go. And she hasn't had time to find an apartment yet. She has an appointment with a real estate agent tonight. She'll get it, and then she won't have to bother us anymore. Well, I can't throw my wife's friend out on the street, can I? Susie may be annoying, but not letting someone in who has nowhere else to go is too much. The meeting with the realtor didn't go well. Susie wasn't happy with the apartment they offered. Now she went to similar meetings with realtors, almost every day after the main work. It's not hard to guess that she was living in our apartment all this time, and for me, the kitchen turned into a living room. At first, the fact that a strange woman was living in my apartment made me tense. I had to give up some of my habits. I couldn't have any privacy with my wife because Susie could walk into the room at any moment. Then I got used to it, and after a while, I even began to see the advantages. One woman is good, two is better. Susie was eager to help around the house, regularly spending evenings at the stove cooking various meals, and at the end of the month, she even gave me some of the rent money. At the same time, I began to feel that Naomi and I were drifting apart. She started spending all her free time with Susie. I'd always thought that making a wife jealous of her boyfriends was the last thing a slacker would do. I wasn't one of them, but I might be soon. Naomi, why don't we go see a movie this weekend? My mom has already agreed to take the kids home. She really misses them. It's been so long since you and I went out together, I suggested to my wife. In fact, I didn't really need the movie for nothing. I'm not a big fan of going to the movies, but it was important to me at that moment to make sure Naomi still wanted to spend time with me. Of course she did. You're right, we probably haven't been to a movie in forever. I don't even know what's playing. Where shall we go? If you don't mind, I'll ask Susie where she'd rather go, Naomi chirped happily. What's Susie got to do with it? Didn't I invite Susie and not my wife 2 minutes ago? And then everything fell into place. You don't mind if Susie comes with us, do you? I don't want to leave her alone. She's going through a tough time right now. You don't know this, but she filed for divorce yesterday, Naomi told me. And I naively thought that Susie would rather make up with her husband than rent an apartment and leave us. Well, that's not going to happen anytime soon. She just filed for divorce yesterday. Now they're going to get divorced eventually. So she's going to hang out with us all the time? I'm not used to making rash decisions. I'm a big believer in making calculated decisions. I don't remember what pissed me off or when, but Susie did a great job with it. My hands were shaking with anger, and I was only a few steps away from causing a scandal. But at the last moment, I stopped myself. In this situation, shouting and breaking dishes would not solve anything. It would only make things worse because I saw Naomi's addiction to Susie. I'm not used to doing things rashly. I believe in making informed decisions. I don't remember what it was that made me angry, but Susie did. My hands were shaking with anger, and I was only a few steps away from causing a scandal. But at the last moment, I stopped myself. In this situation, shouting and breaking dishes would not solve anything. It would only make things worse, because I saw how Naomi was addicted to Susie. But I couldn't understand the secret of this addiction. At first, I tried to put myself in Susie's shoes. It didn't work. I imagined I'd had a fight with Naomi and left home. Yes, I would probably spend the night at a friend's house, but no more than that. The next day I'd start looking for an apartment. I don't see anything good in making people feel cramped in their own homes. And that is assuming just to be sure that my friend would not kick me out, but on the contrary would offer to stay as long as possible. Besides, Naomi and I and our 2 kids weren't living in a 3-story house with room for 10. We have a small 2-bedroom. Honestly, The four of us can get cramped sometimes. And then there's Susie. Naomi, when does Susie move out? You know, it's not normal for her to live with us for so long. Can't she afford a place of her own? Or doesn't she have relatives to stay with? Victor, don't you know that Susie's folks have a crowded house? Her sister and her husband live there, her nephews, her brother and his girlfriend visit from time to time. 8 people in 3 rooms. Where else would Susie go? What about us? There are 5 of us, but it's 2 rooms. She can't stay with us forever. After this conversation, Naomi took offense at me and for a few days spoke to me only in cases of extreme necessity. Victor, you're getting yourself into trouble. Soon that Susie will kick you out, first to the balcony and then to the garage to move your things. Be careful with that. Women, they are so cunning, advised me my comrade, and at the same time neighbor Anthony in the garage. Although, what am I upset? See you more often. I will visit you in the garage. With Anthony, we met that evening in a beer hall, which is located near my house. I started looking there almost every day after the fight between Susie and her husband. I just didn't want to go home. Anthony was right. Slowly but surely, Susie was driving me out of the house. I wondered if she was doing it on purpose. And then I began to notice that Naomi had changed her attitude toward the male sex. I started the old rant several times about how it would be a good idea for Susie to pack her things and get out of our apartment. Victor, why does she bother you so much? I mean, she's not bothering us at all. You have a couch in your kitchen, a TV, a refrigerator full of food. What more do you need? Now Naomi, I'm sure with the help of her boyfriend, has come to believe that men are unpretentious creatures at the bottom of the evolutionary ladder. Anthony is right. At this rate, I'll soon be living in a garage. A couch, a TV, and a refrigerator are all I need to be happy. Talking to Naomi about moving Susie was pointless. I had a few other options to get rid of the annoying friend. The most extreme was to just kick her out and throw everything away. But given Susie's influence on Naomi, I wasn't sure my wife wouldn't follow her. So I went the other way. Whereas before I had only talked about Susie in whispers or in her absence, now I simply stopped restricting myself. I returned to discussing Susie's move almost every night. And I tried to do it in such a way that the gist of our conversation would reach her friend's ears. It didn't work. Susie was impenetrable. She kept pretending that nothing was going on with me, as if she didn't know my position, even though I'm sure she can hear everything I say to Naomi. The situation was radically changed by an unexpected acquaintance. As usual, I spent the evening after work in a pub with a mug of beer. And then a complete stranger sat down next to me. At first, I thought he had mistaken me for someone else. You're Victor, right? The husband of my practically ex-wife Susie's ex-husband? The stranger asked me. I nodded. I know Susie lives with you. After he said that, I was glad that he'd finally come to his senses and decided to bring her home. But no. You'd better watch out for her. She ruined our family, and now I'm sure she's working on ruining yours. Yes, that was a good point. Get her out of here. Why do you think she didn't have a good time with me? Because she's a man-hater. She's all about relationships with women. She's a lesbian. This is a twist I didn't see coming. What am I going to do? Did my wife have a mistress under my nose instead of a lover? With a lover, everything would be much easier. At least you know how to behave. But what to do with a mistress? When I came home in the evening, I dragged my wife into the kitchen to talk. I was determined. I don't want my wife and her friend to give me horns. Naomi didn't resist and confessed everything. So tell Susie to pack her bags now. I don't care where she goes. Not the desert, but at least a hostel. Maybe she'll meet her love. If not, I'll help her and throw her off the balcony, I told Naomi. If you throw her out, I will follow her. Naomi obviously thought to frighten me and make me give up my decision. But I was not in the right frame of mind. I beg you. I can help you pack for the company. Naomi freaked out and went to tell her lover and pack her things. She went out with Susie that night. I had to tell the kids that Mom had gone to help Aunt Susie get settled in her new apartment. They seemed to believe it. Susie and my wife didn't last long. About a week later, Naomi came home. We had a long talk. She cried. She apologized. I told her that I'd forgotten everything, that I forgave her. But I'm not really sure. No matter how I look at it, Naomi cheated on me. Not with a man, but she did cheat on me. But we have 2 children. I want them to grow up happy. And I gave Naomi one condition: no more Susie on the doorstep. And no other close friends who could ruin a family's happiness.